of the world today is cursing themselves down. Oh, well, I'm not going to be able to pay my bills this week. Well, guess what? You're not going to be able to pay your bills this week. Ooh, girl, I feel like I'm getting sick. Well, guess what? You're going to get sick. Oh, I just know my husband don't love me. Well, guess what? Your husband don't love you. Think about this now, Oliver. And it's not just, limited to the boundaries here in North America. Oliver can tell you in France it's the same way, even though they speak a different language. It's the same way, world over. Time and time again, people are just cursing themselves down. And if you're not careful, if you don't guard against these things, you'll find yourself right in the mix with these same people. And before you know it, you're thinking the same way. You're like, wow, she right. My husband don't love me either. When last time he showed me that he loved me or that he cared about me? She right. Her husband, he has a bad attitude. Well, guess what? Yeah, my husband has a bad attitude too. You see what I mean? Oh, my husband don't care about me. Well, guess what? Your husband not going to care about you. Wow, we need to really check ourselves at the door. And, daughter of Zion 3, you're right. Power and words are not just limited to the Jews, not just limited to the descendants of the Hebrews. It's to all humanity. So very important to understand. So, yeah, to God for the responses. And whenever Hakohim's ready to fire it up, I think he's in the room now. Shabbat Shalom to you, Hakohim, in Pensacola, Florida, the Sunshine State. I tell you what, I just love that. I love saying that. The Sunshine State. So we give thanks to the God of Israel. We give thanks to the Master Yahushua that, we really come in full circle. I mean, I tell you, it's just so awesome to be on this journey with the son of Aaron, because there's just no other place to be. There's no other place I want to be. And I can literally say that I'm home. After all of this searching and after, all of this seeking, I'm home. I can say that within myself and be very comfortable saying that. I don't have to second guess it. I wasn't home here at Hagee's church. I just wasn't home. That's why I quit going home. You see? That's why I quit going. Because I wasn't home there. When you find home, my goodness, there's no better place to be. Gentiles have a song that say, Papa was a rolling stone. Wherever he laid his hat was his home. I tell you. Well, I'm home. And my hat is not moving. My hat is not moving away from the sons of Aaron. That's so very important to understand. So, enough of that. You remember that song, Rabbi Zachariah? Yeah. So, we give thanks to the God of Israel. We give thanks to the God of Israel for the many blessings. You got to see the blessings. I know a lot of you're remiss because you're missing the blessing of the exile. There's great blessings of the exile, and you're missing them. And they're happening to you daily. But you're missing them. Why? It's because if you're not careful, you're going to find yourself assimilating and becoming a Gentile before you even know it. And thinking just like them. And following their mannerisms. It's real subtle. It doesn't hit you like a brick. It's more like a little drop of rain. It starts out like there's dew falling on you. And before you know it, you're fully assimilated. Like the Gore. Well, I think what's that on Star Trek? They go and they run. I think that's the name of these aliens. They call Gore. And what they do is they assimilate into whatever culture, whatever people they run into. And before you know it, you can't tell the Gore from one of the inhabitants that they have assimilated into. No, don't be like that. Don't be like that. So, yeah, I'll release the mic, and we'll fire it up whenever Hakohim's ready to fire up the lecture for the day. Torah teaches us many great lessons. Nokma told me this today. And Torah teaches us many great lessons. But have we learned the lessons of the Torah? Isn't that a question? Think about that. The Torah teaches us many great lessons. But have we learned the lessons of the Torah? How do you assess your learning? That's another great question, right? So I think it's very important to understand that. Yael, woman of the tent, says, I took a trip to Indiana and Michigan and wanted to give thanks to the Abba for safe traveling. He also impressed on 2 individuals the need to contribute to funding my trip. I didn't have to request any aid. He also opened the door for me to rent a vehicle for $253 for the entire 7 days. Baruch Hashem, Master Yahweh. Oh, indeed. Baruch Hashem, Master Yahweh. To you, Yael, woman of the tent. Great benefits, great blessings. Now, impressed upon these 2 people, I could probably gander and say with high probability that these 2 people were probably Gentiles. If I'm mistaken, please let me know, Yael, woman of the tent. But I could pretty much guarantee that probably these people were Gentiles that made a way for you to go on this trip. And so, Baruch Hashem, Master Yeshua, there's great blessings being in exile. But again, we have to begin to realize them and see them. Okay, so I'll release the mic and we'll start the lectures whenever Hakoim's ready. Shabbat Shalom to all of you, Mishpahah. You have a wonderful Shabbat. I'm going to tell you one thing I do know. One was a Gentile, one is in question. Okay? Master Yahweh for that. And believe me, they'll reap the blessings for it. They'll reap the blessings for it for sure. Regardless, Jew or Gentile. Because when you bless a Hebrew, you'll be blessed. Yajan says, giving all praises to the Most High for this beautiful morning. Oh, indeed. Every morning is beautiful, right, Yajan? But this day is a special day. This day is not a day. This day is a Shabbat. The other days are 6 days, which are beautiful as well. But this day is the Shabbat. This is kicked up many notches. Wow. Great understanding in that as well. So I tell you, we keep learning from this Torah. If you keep humbling yourself and be obedient to this Torah, it'll keep teaching you. And you'll keep learning lessons. I hope you learn. If not, Torah's always going to keep teaching you. Believe me. You're going to keep getting taught by the Torah until you learn the lesson. Wow, that's important to understand, right? But how many people are going to be persistent and be that student of the Torah? I tell you, I don't see many. Because you know what? Test results have proven here at Forever Israel and here in this room, Israel Torah Protectors, that people come and go. They float through here like the wind. Some stay, some stick, and some, stray. And some fly away. So be it. You know what I say to all these people? Best endeavors to you. But I can tell you this, I am home. Some folks are still throwing their hat, wherever. Some folks are still wanting to lay their hat somewhere else because they haven't found home. But I can tell you this, I am home. Yael woman says, what was that you said last week about the egg yolk? Oh yeah, the egg yolk. Take an egg and throw it up against the wall. It's the yolk that sticks. The rest of the stuff just, the white is just what? It dribbles down. Gravity pulls it down. But it's that yolk that sticks. Only reason why I know about that, because back in the high school days, I don't know, one of our pranks in high school, Hakohi, was to go and take eggs and go throw them at people's house. The house of the principal, preferably. We go to the principal's house, middle of the night. We on a recon mission, and we take eggs and we throw them against his house. And so, when we were found out, we had to go clean the eggs off of the principal's house. And so the reason why I know that yolk sticks is because, my goodness, that was hard. After it's been caked on there for a few days, that egg yolk was hard to get off of his house. So I know the yolk sticks, but the white will run off. Great lesson in that, indeed. Shabbat Shalom to all of you, Mishpah. You all have a wonderful Shabbat. Put on your Torah hats, put your Torah thinking on, put on your Torah caps, put on your Hebrew hat, Hebrew mindset. You should already have it on, but put it on if you don't. And be ready to be taught by the Torah. Listen to the words of the sons of Aaron. They will change your life. They will change your life.
Shabbat Shalom from Pensacola, Florida, the city of the Kohen. Baruch Hashem, Master Yehoshua, Master Yahweh, for this wonderful day, and the fact that we are living and breathing and standing and sitting and eating and living. Baruch Hashem, Abba Yahweh, for His great mercies upon us in our exile until our restoration comes. And may we all, and may our children, may our children's children see the restoration of our land, of our temple, and of our people. Amen. Amen. So with that, Rabbi Kefa, yeah, that was kind of instructional. I didn't know that you were doing these kind of pranks, throwing eggs around people's houses. And very, very important point that Rabbi Kefa made about the egg yolk sticking and the rest not. Also, rabbis in Forever Israel, welcome to the room, and Shlachim. So our Parsha today is called Parsha Shlach. Shlach means to go, to be sent. So theoretically, we as Israel, in fact all of you as Israel, are the sent ones to the world, to reveal to the world what they can acquire through living in the same ways as you are supposed to live according to the Torah of Moses, and as it was revealed by the Messiah Yehoshua as well. And we'll look at some of that aspect as well today. And I think it's very important that we understand a number of things. Is that, and I speak to people throughout the week. Sometimes they send me an email, sometimes I may have to phone somebody, etc. And I get to hear about different things going on in our families' lives across the board: North America, England, Europe, other places, etc. across the pond. I will tell you a little testimony of my student, in Manila right now. I think he was in Baguio City in Philippines. Those of you know Philippines will know where Baguio City is, or you can Google it on the map. And he's presently, I think, he was in Manila. He's somewhere between. I think he's in Baguio City now, probably temporarily. And he usually sends me recorded messages, in WhatsApp, and my goodness, they can be long messages, and once he starts, they come, at a 1, 2, 3, 4, like 2 minute, 3 minute, 4 minute, 5 minute messages. So I had to then respond back, and usually his messages come around about 1 o'clock our time, Central Time. It's like 2 o'clock New York time. In the morning, by the way, not in the afternoon. So, because that's their that's their daybreak, and they're probably somewhere in their morning part of their day. And so yesterday he sent me a message because he was supposed to be in New Zealand, and I hadn't heard from him for a while. Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi Yosef, and the rest of the rabbis as well. And so he sent me a message, and he told me that he wasn't able to go. He's delayed his ticket a little bit, and he had a couple of concerns. So I had to give him some guidance on that, on how to approach his concerns. And I had a right laugh with my student, because he mentioned something. He mentioned in passing somebody telling him that Puerto Rico is one of the countries he can go to, and I told him, I said, do not even touch Puerto Rico. Whoever told you this is right, that Puerto Rico is a place where you can live if you're a U.S. citizen, but I said that's the last place on earth where I will be sending you, that's for sure. So I said, you don't know the half story of Puerto Rico, of what happened to Puerto Rico when it came in judgment against Yahweh and against the Kohen. You just don't know what's going on over there. So let's not go there, and let's continue. But I don't want to. I want you to understand something, and I think this will help you. I'm going to give you this lesson partially about my life, my testimony partially, and partially of our forefathers, of course, and our heroes of the faith of our faith of Abraham through the Bible. So I want to relate that. This is nothing about me personally per se. It's not how great I am or wonderful I am, all that nonsense. No, this is not about me generally. But this is about how God, the God that we all know today, as Master Yehoshua, has worked in my life and in your lives, and He continues to work in all of our lives. And I want to relate to you this story because this will help you to understand the kind of person that I am. And I don't think that, because you see, many people, they make a judgment call. People who've never met me, people who've never sat with me, people who've never talked to me, they make a judgment call and they say, oh, that man is evil, he's did this, and there they go, they run off with it. But you see, that is not the way to judge people, because inadvertently what you might do is the words that you speak against somebody else in judgment, saying that he is no good and blah blah blah, you may actually be throwing curses on your own home. Now, we're not talking about Joe on the street over here. You see, this is a problem. The problem is that I'm not a Joe on the street, because I was chosen for a mission. And I didn't even know about this mission till, my goodness, 1998. When I first came across it, I wasn't fully, I wasn't fully equipped at that point. I didn't know I was meant to do this. I just happened to come into it because that is something that the Master had chosen for me before I was born. And of course, a little by little, slowly and surely, things were revealed to me that took years, not months and not days. It took years to reveal to me what I needed to do and how I needed to walk by the Master's side. So therefore, this is definitely not about me per se, but I'm going to tell you the kind of person that Yahweh chose, or Master Yehoshua if you like, He chose to lead the way for His people. And this is incredible testimony, because you're going to come across some amazing realization that maybe I've never spoken about before, and I will speak about it a little bit, and I will tell you what has happened and what is happening presently. And I will also tell you this, that some of you out there who are either listening live, or if you're listening after the event, maybe on YouTube, maybe through our website, or maybe some other website, somebody else who's hosting this recording, no problem, you're going to find that some of you don't take my word seriously. You listen, and they go through one ear and they go out the other ear, and nothing changes because you didn't pay attention. But when I say pay attention, I don't mean you just listen and you have your breakfast or your dinner, and next day you're going to work and you forget everything. That is what I mean by not paying attention. In other words, when I say something, there needs to be an application, and a lot of you are not applying it, unfortunately. Some of my rabbis are the guiltiest ones for doing that, by the way. Some of you rabbis are the guiltiest ones to do that. And how can I fault the family, the rest of the family? When you are doing it as teachers, then how can you set an example for the rest of the family? You can't set an example. When you as teachers are going to do it, you're setting a very bad example and very bad precedents. How many times have I said things for you not to do, and you still do them? You just still go along and merrily do them. Then you come back to me and say, could you please petition on my behalf, pray on my behalf for increased blessings, etc., favor. You see, you're going against the grain of what I'm saying. And I'm not saying it because, I hate somebody, or I hate a country, or I hate the people. Far from that. I am only saying it to help you, because I see problems where you can't even see anything. I see problems 10 years down the line with you people having all sorts of issues because you didn't listen. And I'm going to and I'm going to come, and I'm going to hopefully your ears are open and your eyes are open, and you can, understand and apply to what I'm saying. I hope that you can do that. And if you can't do that, too bad. At least I tried, and those that will listen will benefit and reap the reward. So having said that, when I tell somebody to do something, they should just do it without question. Because I don't say to do it for me. You doing something is not for me. It's not like I'm going to gain something. Let me explain to you. My student in Philippines right now, I'm not gaining nothing from him doing something for himself. Look, there's no financial gain for me. I don't get anything financially. I'm not rewarded financially. I'm not rewarded spiritually. I'm not rewarded in any way. Period. For that. But you could say that I am rewarded through obedience and loyalty to the Master, because what instructions I give come from above. So my reward is indirectly loyalty to my Master and the obedience to him, who I know, my goodness, I have known him as Yahweh since I was 20-something, 30-something years old. So for the last nearly 20 years I've known him as Yeshua or Yehoshua as a master. And of course, we had a little falling for a couple of years, and misunderstanding due to, as I explained, Jewish texts and Mishnah and blah 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 and all that baloney. And eventually I put all of that to one side, and I went back to my revelation, and I went back and asked to get a revelation from the Master. Again, as he had given me revelation in the beginning, and things became crystal clear. Absolutely crystal clear. The people that call Jesus of Nazareth in the Western Hemisphere, or they're called by different names, no problem about that for me. I knew this man, his name, Shua, in London. They were using interchangeable Jesus, and they were using Icon. Having said and so that keep it of my life, so that you can understand the kind is not Job and somebody just standing there kind of. When I was born in my in a humble family back in Lahore, Pakistan, city of Lahore, Pakistan, by the way, gates. Jerusalem is or was. If you go to Jerusalem today, you will not understand that Jerusalem was a city of gates. The model that Jerusalem had, by the way, listen to this very carefully. The model that Jerusalem had, our original people inherited Jerusalem, and they came from the lands of India. Those of you who didn't know that, brush up your theology and your history. They came from India, not Africa. Africa was just a place they stopped by. And history attests to that. But you will not find that history in, the Bible will mention it. Bible mentions it in numerous ways, but most of you will not even understand it, because you're not privy to our ancient times and ancient practices, which I am, because I see them all over the place back in the East. So our ancient forefathers, Abraham and Abraham's father, who was Terah, they came from India, and they settled in what today we know as southeastern Turkey. And from southeastern Turkey, they had relatives living in what you know as Iraq today, modern Iraq, known as Babylon in the Bible. Babylon wasn't just Iraq. Greater Babylon was Iraq, surrounding areas, excluding Iran, of course. But the daughter of Babylon was Saudi Arabia and the Yemen area. These were the daughter of Babylon, classified in the ancient text and in the modern text, even in the New Testament. So, having said that, so our people came from there, and there was one thing that you haven't noticed in the Bible. That thing is this. I want you to look at the food. I went to Africa several times. Through 2010 to 2015, I must have gone to Africa numerous times. I visited Kenya many times. Rabbi Kefa was with me one time. I visited Nigeria. I visited Ghana numerous times, and maybe a few other countries along the way. But I came to one firm conclusion, because I looked at the practices of the people. I looked at the behaviors of the people. I observed. I stood back and observed the behavior, and I can tell you categorically that they do not have the behaviors of our people, our ancient forefathers. They don't have the behaviors. They don't have the eating characteristics of our forefathers. And that I tell you with firm conviction, knowledge, everything else put together. Not because I hate trying to teach me, Rabbi, to spend between the two of us, me basically, but ultimately that's meant to be. They're not part of our people. There's a number of problems. The problems is a lot of you are seeking wives out of Africa, because you're trying to bring in Hamel into your homes, and you want to be blessed. Definitely, blessings don't work like that. They don't work like that, but subject matter, because blessings always come through the man, not through the woman. And I think I've spoken about that before. I had to reprimand a friend, reprimand that she's had issues and divorce and so on and so forth, is in process of divorce and whatnot, and the pastors can't decide if could receive divorce or not. And I've given a categorical from her husband, because he doesn't even care, or her only child. Having said, I have written pieces of information, but she was of the, my mother didn't do it on my own. Her mother basically lost her husband years ago. She had 3 children and land. And the reason why your mother, since your mother's mistake, I can't go home, your family is all in tatters. So I explained to her that don't think for a second that you've done something wrong. No, you've done nothing wrong, but your mindset is what your mother, you're following the model that my mother did it, I can do it. And I find this model, by the way, in North America and probably in Europe, although Europe is a little bit more on the different side. Hebrews in Europe, Israelites, the people that are part of Israel, black and white and all different people, they think a little bit differently to people in North America, because their experiences are a lot different in Europe. So, I explained to her that that's not going to work. The only way you're going to get blessings in your life is to have a man, a husband, a righteous man. A righteous man doesn't mean, he prays 3 times a day, and he keeps the Sabbath perfectly, and he loves me perfectly. I had to explain some of these terms to her, because people are ignorant. They call themselves by different denominational names, maybe Christian, maybe Pentecostal, whatever, whatever you want to call yourself. Call yourself Hebrew, Mebrew, Jebrew, whatever. I don't really care what you call yourself. But all I know is you call yourself different names, because if somebody said to you, you're a Jew, and you get offended. If somebody said to you, you're a Hebrew, you get offended. You say, no, call me an Israelite. You see, that is some of your idiosyncrasies that are totally off the wall. It shouldn't be like that. That's the problem. The problem is that you're stuck to words that are really lacking in substance. If somebody called me a Jew, or somebody called me a Hebrew, or somebody called me an Israelite, I don't really care. I don't care what they call me, but I know what I am, and that's not going to change. So, you see, you get offended by these words. You get offended because somebody said you're a Jew, and I'm not a Jew. Or somebody says to you, you're a Hebrew. You say, I'm not a Hebrew, I'm an Israelite. You see, you're stuck to words. You're stuck to words. And that's the problem. The problem is that your words are not something that God has made you stick to those words. You have made yourself stick to those words. You have caused a barrier, and then subsequent, you're setting yourself up for a fall subsequently. And so as I was saying earlier, that when I was born, 3 months later, my father was a young man at that time, of course, when I was born, because he married early, and my mother was very young as well. They married early. In those days, they were marrying very early. You'd be surprised. Women were marrying at 13 in the East. 13 to 14, they would be married, and they were having kids by 14 and 15. So both my mother and my auntie as well, my father's sister, they were married very young ages, as it happens in the East. And it may still happen in some parts over there, but not as common. So when I was born, 3 months later, absolutely, Rabbi Kefa, probably the Mexican people do that as well. And so 3 months later, my father got a visa. In those days, it was a form of a visa, like a token. He got the token to go to England 3 months later. So that was after my birth, by the way. But before me, I had an elder brother, and things were normal, nothing, no change, nothing special happened. So parents, what they do, they mark children. Generally, most parents do that across the board. They will mark children and say, when my James was born, this happened. When Peter was born, this happened. And when Jenny was born, this happened. And when Linda was born, this happened. So people mark these events. So the event that was marked by my mother was that my father got a visa to go abroad. Road opened for him to go to England and work over there. We're talking about in the 60s. And so he went to England. He was very determined young man. He went there, and in spite of all adversity, Baruch Hashem, Master Yehoshua, that he got a job. People were over there not finding jobs in those days, because England was struggling at that moment. There weren't that many jobs. It wasn't yet industrialized. Industrial revolution hadn't started yet. And so jobs were difficult, and my father still got a job and was working for the electricity board, believe it or not, out of all places. And everybody was telling him that, it's very difficult, you're not going to be able to find a job, and people are struggling over here. The only job they can get is breaking roads, digging roads. And he said, no, I'm going to get a job, I'm going to do it, and you're going to see it. And so my father had a job, and not only did my father had a job, but my father bought a house. Can you imagine that? My father had a house that belonged to him. I couldn't believe it, When I grew up and I heard that, I was like, wow, that's amazing. That my father had a house, a big house, in Huddersfield, in England. There's a city called Huddersfield. He had a 2-story house over there, and he had a brand new motorcycle, then he bought a brand new car, Morris Minor. So, but my point is this, that I was only born and this happened. So my mother knew that this child that is born is not like my previous child. There is something different about this child. He is special. He's got something about him. But she couldn't pinpoint what it was, but she knew there was something. And so what happened, subsequently, my other 2 brothers were born, and then my 2 sisters were born as well. Nothing happened basically during their births. So nothing significant happened. Everything that was about to happen, that was to put in place, happened during just after my birth. That was a kicker. That was a kick start back in those times. And so what then happened subsequently is, as I was growing up, I spent partial time in Pakistan and the rest in England, mix of both. What was actually happening was, listen to this, my family went through a horrific crash in Turkey. My father was bringing us back to Pakistan back in the 60s, and through his, with his Morris Minor, brand new Morris Minor. Those of old English cars, they're like, rock solid cars, really good cars. And he was bringing us in Turkey. We had an accident, really kind of terrible accident. I was in the car with my family, my brothers. My younger sister hadn't been born yet. That's the only member that we didn't have. But there was my other 2 brothers, and it was 2 brothers and 1 sister, yeah. So we were in the car, and we survived that crash. It was not even a, if I could tell you that it was miraculous, because our car rolled off a hill. There's a steep hill that a truck hit us, and our car rolled off this hill, fell on the floor upside down, and then miraculously didn't catch fire, because God sent rain at that point, and the car cooled down, and we didn't catch fire. None of us was injured, and the car was full of stuff. As people they do, they put all sorts of stuff in their cars, and their car is jam-packed, and you're in there, and all that stuff is rolling with you, and nothing hit you, and no damage, not a scratch on any of us. Baruch Hashem, Abba for that. And then after that, we, ended up going to Pakistan through, my dad got the car repaired in Turkey, sent us ahead. We went by, we went through the road and then by ship, and we ended up in Pakistan. And that was when I was a young child over there. And so what my mother saw with me in the family, and this is something that she noticed, was that there was something about me as I was growing up. I mean, I didn't know that. I mean, as a little kid, I was cooking. I was cooking in the kitchen. I was always saying to my mother, I want to cook. I want to cook. I want to sit there down and make my own. I want to make my own fries. You give me the knife, and I want to cut the potato myself. I want to make my own fries. I want to make my own candy as well. I was doing all of that. I remember it, and my mother often told me about it. And so, my mother really came to love me a lot. She kind of put me above everybody else, and I became her favorite child as a result of that. And of course, as some of you know, some of you also, maybe favorite to your mother, if she's alive. And so, what she notices and what the other people noticed around me, they said that this child has, the words they used were, this child has a presence of God around him. He has something special about him. Because, he does something and something else happens, and we can see that there's something about him. And so they would say that they would use words like this, that the shadow of God rests on him. That's what they would say. And I didn't know what that meant as a little kid, and I didn't know what that meant as I was growing up. But I was very conservative. I was very quiet, and of course I was naughty like children when I was young. But as I grew up, I was very segregated. I was very quiet, and I minded my own business. I stayed to myself. I stayed in my house with my father, because my mother then later passed on. And I wouldn't go out to speak to people, go to clubs, go to bars. None of that. I wouldn't do that. The only thing I did was I'd go to work, I'd go to my taekwondo classes, and I'd come back home, and I'd stay home all the time. I was a home man all the time. I was home, and you wouldn't see me outside. And the only time you'd see me outside is when I went to the martial arts, taekwondo club, and after that I would be home. So what started to happen was, as I grew up out of that, and people started to say to me in my family, people who were in my family, they realized something as well, that this guy has something about him. I was, of highest integrity, still am, very honest, still am, and very, very important, characteristic model. My character was utmost, one of the best characters in my family, and peaceful man, and warrior, but peaceful warrior, if you can say that. So what happened, as you know, now people would do outsiders, to realize he's not liked by people, and know who these people were. Can you put between us? We had a fight, and they wanted me to adjudicate that fight, be an arbitrator. Incredible, about there, and somebody can and Westman because we feel something, and they called me to their house. Just some people I didn't know, students' parents. They would give me tell me to them and eat with them, but I was very shy as a person, young man. I was very shy. I wanted to be just by myself, and I wanted to just teach children, and I wanted to go home. My children being they were adults and children both together, and I wanted to go home, and I wanted I wanted nothing to do with the world. I was completely separated from the world. My house was my world at that point, unless I went out, of course, for a little bit. And so, as I was growing up, then people around my family, they said, you know what, we want to do something, can you come with us? Rabbi Zachariah is a mechanic over here. Let me tell you something, Rabbi Zachariah. You probably go to buy a car, and if you went with a friend, your friend wanted to buy a car, you checked all the car out, and you pick a nice car, so that they don't get ripped off, and you'll be able to give them that car, right? And people were coming to me and saying, we're going to buy a car, can you come with us? Can you imagine that? They wanted me to go with them to buy a car, and I was no mechanic. I knew nothing about the car. All I knew was how to drive the car. I knew where the engine is, where the steering is, but I knew nothing else about the car. But they wanted me with them. You know why they wanted me with them? They said, this man will help us find a nice car, because he has that something that causes him to do the right, he touches things and they turn into gold. That's what people came to believe around me. They say he touches things and they turn into gold. Dust turns into gold. He's got to be with us. So for businesses, for cars, for other things, they would say, come with us. So I would go with my family members, and I would go with them, and I would say, okay, I would go to the showroom, where they're selling the used cars or new cars or whatever, usually used cars, and I would look at the cars, in the lot, and there's hundreds of cars in the lot, and I'll say, that's the car you want. the car that I pointed my finger to and touched, that car will never go wrong. Believe that. That happened to my family. It happened so much that when I went with my brother-in-law and he bought the first car and it turned out to be a really nice car, then the second one said come with me, then the third one said come with me, and it became a trend. People wanted to take me to buy cars. And so I went with them and I just said, do this, that one, this one, this way. So I got to see for myself, and I became to realize that there is something different about me. And I don't know what it is. At that point, of course, I didn't know I was a Kohen. I didn't know I was from what tribe I was, but I knew there was something different about me than the rest of the people. Something about me that was different and the rest of the people, and that God was using that. So eventually, to bring the story forward, I, what they call became saved, or what I say, I found, or God found me, found the God that eventually, and then when I came to that, what in Holy Spirit, and I more appreciate, and I don't know if harness the power is the right word, I began to more appreciate what I actually had, and I'm supposed to use it. And so I realized that in both fighting skills and in terms of people skills and in terms of worldly skills and spirituals that I had, that I could say other people could do. So I was still kind of inclusive, I wouldn't mix with people that much. But having said that, I began to help people in areas. Whether they are Christian, whether they are Messianics, or whether they are whatever, doesn't matter. And so I started to do that. And so my point is this, that what I began to realize, that revealed to me my mission and my status as a person. I became to realize that I belong to the sons of Aaron. And I was like, I'm aghast. So I didn't know that. Aaron, Moses was my relative. People talk about, I'm related to Muhammad the Prophet. Muslims will say that. Tribal lineage. But I don't know what to do with it. So, but you can't know what to do with it. So I was at that position. Well, to do with it, just keep it nice and carry on. It's pretty safe. Keep quiet and carry on. And so what happened then? I said to because family, a lot of my family wanted to go to pilgrimage in Saudi Arabia, Mecca, because they're Muslims, and they'll say, I'm going to Mecca and see Allah and see His house and blah blah. Okay, Pharaoh asked me, the mountain is coming to me. They would look at my face and they would be like, there's this look on me, stupid little, that Mecca come to him. Mecca, mountain's going to come to him. They're saying, and the mountain doesn't go to Muhammad. So I was like, come to me. Word. What? 2000, around about 2002 stroke 2002, the year. This man, I didn't even know who this man was, through an email, and he wanted to meet me at the Heathrow Airport in London. And then I got to find, a man was actually descendant of the Prophet, the Muslim Prophet, his daughters through that family lineage. Because you know what just happened? At that point, in Saudi Arabia, he told me who the relations of his, he told me that related to the king. He came to know about the Master Yahushua through me. He said, tell me about the Master Yahushua, who is he? Because I have seen him in a dream. He was a man to the knowledge. He came to me, I told my family, and my then wife, the next wife, was absolutely, I couldn't believe it. A man of such stature, by him, and he was with me. So the mountain came to my house. So the words I spoke were so powerful that they actually happened just like that. And I never told them that he had accepted the Messiah. To them he was still a Muslim man. And so anyhow, so that information, so from there we move on. And so we move on from there, and what we find is that every place I touched, every place that my foot touched, or my feet, either was blessed by God or it received the judgment of God. And I realized something, and I realized that the reason for that is twofold. Is that this is a thing of this is a spiritual matter. It is a matter that God has revealed, that a Kohen's feet, now we're talking about a Kohen, not Simon Altaf, because Simon Altaf was just a man, but the Kohen was more than a man. And so what happened, the Kohen's feet, where they touched, they would bless that house, or they would bring judgment to that house. In other words, there would be some, shaking going on over there. And so I realized that, and some of the other people realized that too. Having said that, so life continues, and we are here in 2018. So the point being this, is that I want to bring some information to your knowledge. Every person that I touched meaning that they knew me, or I gave them financial advice, or I gave them some other advice, their lives today, by the way, they're not all Christians, they're not all Messianics, they are different people, Hindus, Muslims, other types, Jews even. So having said that, their lives have increased, or I should say blessed manifold after I came into their life. And they have received blessings. And that's just by the by. Now, don't ask me why. It's not that I did some magical, lotion, potion. No. It was a presence, it was the feet of the Kohen that touched their properties, that touched their lives. And they saw the blessings of that. And you see that in the Bible. You see that with a man named Obed-Edom when he has the Ark of the Covenant in his house. Absolutely, Rabbi Kefa. And Rabbi Kefa saying that's still occurring in my life and my faith. And Rabbi Zechariah saying I'm a witness to that. And so what happened was the Ark of the Covenant was in this man's house. He was a Levite and he was receiving blessings. His house was receiving blessings. Anybody would come to his house and say, please let me touch you, let me touch you. And they would receive blessings. And King David even went to the house of that man and then had to arrange for that ark to be removed from there safely so that other people would not die, because people had tried to touch that ark and they were killed. But this man would touch the ark and nothing would happen. In other words, people would receive blessing and he would receive, he had long life. So even King David came to realize that this man who was a Levite was special as well in that regard. And you can read about him in the scriptures. And so what we've kind of come to see is this is what I see, this is what I did. And Rabbi Kefa, maybe someday he will tell you about that. I take something, I modify it, I touch it, let's just say I touch it, in the metaphysical, and it becomes even better. And Rabbi Kefa saw that. I've shown him that a couple of times. And so he saw that, and he is receiving blessings from that, even this day, even today, and even tomorrow, and even his children and his children's children will receive blessings from that, what I did. That's how powerful, something that I can't explain to you, I can't tell you what exactly I did, but what I can tell you, it is something that I've done, that it will bless him forever, going into the land. And so, having said that, this is why I say that you are what you do. This is why sometimes I give you advice as a teacher, as a spiritual father, brother, however you take me. I give you advice on a spiritual level to help you in your physical lives, in our process of restoration whilst we're still living in the diaspora. Texas is immensely blessed as a result of the Kohen. You know where the Kohen set his feet? In Texas. Long ago, I was invited to speak in a church in Texas, which was in not far from Houston. It was in Galveston, by the way. That's a place where I went to. And I spoke there a long time ago. I was invited by a pastor to speak there on prophecy. And I was accepted over there, and they were really nice people as well. That was my first speaking engagement that occurred in America years ago. And so Texas is blessed because Texas had the Kohen traversing it left, right and center. I traversed Texas up and down, going and coming from Florida. And Florida as a result is Florida, Pensacola is the base of the Kohen. Is the place where the master has put me. And so this city is tremendously blessed as well as a result of that. And you can tell, because I don't need to tell you, you can go and look at all the hurricanes that occurred in the last 3 years. Show me damage, show me any extensive damage where I live. You can show me and I will say, yeah, you're right, because you will not find it. You will not find hurricanes didn't even touch us. Forget about damage, they didn't even touch us. They pass us by on the left and on the right. And where Yahweh has planted his palm tree, it does not bend. And if it bends a little, and then it straightens up even stronger. So you might wonder why I'm using the analogy of a palm tree. The reason why I use the analogy of a palm tree is because you have many trees in America. I came to America and I didn't see so many trees in England. England, is a lush country with greenery, lot of grass, hedges. These little growing up hedges on the houses, around the houses, and the little gardens, a lot of that. But England doesn't have as many trees as America does. America is a much bigger country, a lot of trees. And I came over here and there's leaves everywhere, there's trees everywhere, birds everywhere, noise of birds, noise of creatures. I was like, my goodness, I've never seen this before. Because I've never kind of stayed here longer term till now. And I was like, there's so many trees over here and so many leaves, and you have to pick the leaves up and all of that. So the trees over here, you got the pine trees, you got the oak trees, and hurricanes come. Hurricanes come throughout North America because it's part and parcel of the season. Hurricane season has started, I believe, June 1. And so when hurricanes come, some of these trees that are firmly planted, they appear to be firmly planted, oak trees and pine trees, and the hurricane comes and plop, they pulls them up and throws them down. They come out like a buttering knife. My goodness, a hurricane can just pull up those trees and they fall on the ground. But a palm tree will not be pulled up. Why does a palm tree not pull up versus, let's say, a pine tree? And let me tell you the reasons why. Because a palm tree is designed to withhold extreme weather conditions. You know how the desert is. Extreme weather conditions, really, really hot, really, really cold, high winds, sandstorms, but the palm tree is still standing. And what happens to the palm tree? When high winds come, it bends over a little. It's kind of bending, and you might think it's going to fall, it's going to come out and it's going to get pulled out. But nope, as soon as the storm is past, the palm tree is upright again. And it's even more stronger. It builds even more stronger roots. This is why we are likened to a palm tree in the Psalms. We humans are likened to a palm tree. Some of you are facing difficulties. Some of you are facing trials. And you're wondering, why me? Why am I having these trials? Why has not God blessed me? But what you're failing to realize is these trials are building you, strengthening you, and you're like that palm tree. You're bending, you're not uprooted. But when you stand up, when that storm passes, when that trial passes through your life, and you stand up as a palm tree, whether you're a man or a woman, and you'll be even more stronger. Some of you facing disease, some of you facing financial hardship. You will stand up and you will say, I'm the better person than I was. I'm now a better woman, I'm now a better man. You will say that because you're like a palm tree. It is very important to understand that analogy. And this Parsha is all about what happened with Israel. Look, we had the 12 spies. Let me take you there to Parsha 37, Shlach Lacha, the sent ones. And so we go to this Parsha and we look, and it says, chapters 13 of Numbers, verse 1, and Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, send you men that they may search the land of Canaan, which I give to the children of Israel. Of every tribe of their ahvoth shall you send a man, every one a ruler among them. So Yahweh chose 12 men to send out who were chiefs, who were like noblemen in the tribes. Each tribe they were noble. And it says, Moshe, by the commandment of Yahweh, sent them from the wilderness of Paran, all those men who were the heads of children of Israel. By the way, wilderness of Paran is parts of Saudi Arabia. And these were their names of the tribe of Reuben, Shemua, the son of Zaphor. So it lists a whole host of names. It starts with Reuben, the firstborn, of the tribe of Reuben. and then it goes to Shimon, Yehuda. Yehuda is mentioned after Reuben and after Shimon, and then we have the tribe of Yisachar, Ephraim, we have Benjamin. Ephraim is mentioned with Yehoshua as Oshia at that point, and Yehoshua afterwards. Then we have Benjamin, then we also have Zebulun, and then we have the tribe of Joseph, then we have tribe of Dan, the tribe of Asher, Naphtali, tribe of Gad, and we then have, then it says, these are the names of the men which Moshe sent to spy out the land, and Moshe called Oshia, the son of Nun, Yahushua. Exactly the same spellings in Hebrew as Jesus' name, Master Jesus, Yeshua's name in Hebrew as Yehoshua. And Moshe sent them to spy out the land of Canaan and said to them, get up this way southward and go up into the mountain. Now, I want to take you to the part of the story as part of the journey, and we know that these men went. We know they went and they saw that the grapes were massive. They said they came to the brook of Eshcol and they cut down there from a branch with one cluster of grapes, and they were huge. And they bare the branch between two upon a staff, and they brought the pomegranates and of the figs, so they brought huge, big fruit. It was almost like GMO, but of course not GMO. It was the blessings of God in that land. The fruit was so large. And then it says that these spies returned. They returned after they did their spying out of the searching of the land, and they came back and this is what they said. Listen to this. They said in verse 27, and they told him, I said, we came to the land where you sent us, and indeed it flows with milk and honey. Very abundant land. Says, this is the fruit of it. Nevertheless, the people be strong that dwell in the land, and the cities are walled and very great. And moreover, we saw the children of Anak there. Children of Anak were giants. So it says, Amaleki dwell in the land of the south, and the Hitti and the Yebusi and the Amori dwell in the mountains, and the Canaani dwell by the sea and by the coast of Jordan. And Caleb silenced the people before Moshe and said, let us go up at once and possess it, for we are well able to overcome it. But the men that went up with him said, we be not able to go up against the people, for they are stronger than we. And they brought up an evil report of the land which they had searched to the children of Israel, saying, the land through which we have gone to search it is a land that devours its inhabitants, and all the people that we saw in it are men of a great stature. So they gave an evil report of this land back to the people. And what did that evil report do? Well, we can look at it. They gave the evil report, and it says in chapter 14 verse 1, all the congregation lifted up their voice and cried, and the people wept that night. They didn't rejoice. They didn't say, oh great, Baruch Hashem, Master Yahweh, that Yahweh is going to take us into the land. Great, we see our destiny, we see our future. They didn't say that. You know what they said? Why did he bring us out to kill us? We can't overtake these people, we can't fight them, we're not going to win the battle. Every negative expletive in your dictionary was in the minds and the lips of the people, except two families. Caleb's family, that were converts, by the way. Caleb was a convert. He wasn't a genuine bloodline Israelite. And some of you out there, ignorant masses that you are, call yourself Israel, and you say, oh, that convert is less than me. He is not Israel. He never was born in Israel. He was never born in a family in Israel. So this is how you berate people who didn't come from the bloodlines of Abraham. Yet, some of these converts are more sincere, more faithful than so-called homeborn people. So we need to be very careful what we do. We need to be careful about that, how we label people. Oh, he's not born part of Israel. Oh, he's not born through a black mother. Oh, is this? Oh, is that? None of that is important. What is important is obedience factor and the loyalty factor, which doesn't exist in many of the so-called Israelites out there, by the way. Do you know that in North America alone, I'm not going to talk about the rest of the countries, but North America alone, here, The so-called Hebrews, people who call themselves Hebrews, Jews, they might call themselves by Jews, and I'm not just talking about black so-called Hebrews, I'm also talking about white Ashkenazi as well. Do you know that there are more people here that beat their wives, that beat their families? Did you know that? The situation in America is terrible. Some of these so-called Jews, black Jews and white Ashkenazi Jews, people who call themselves Israel, stand on the streets in Chicago and they stand on the streets in New York. And I'm not differentiating between race, not saying, oh well, they are white and they do it and they are black and they, no. Mix people, mix in their homes. They beat up their wives in their homes. They malign their children, and their lives are terrible. Their lives are terrible. Their families' lives are terrible. And the women are so afraid, they're afraid to go out because her husband will beat her. And these men are the most unrighteous that you will come across. Did you know that? And I found that out once I came to America, and I saw it with my own two eyes, and I read it and I saw it, and I was like, my goodness, I've been living in England the majority of my life. I never saw that over there. My goodness, what a mess. And it is a mess because these people don't follow what the Torah dictates. They follow what their minds tell them, and they follow whatever else. And you'll be surprised at the amount of abuse, women being abused in Hebrews' homes, if I can call them all Hebrews under the one label. The amount of abuse that exists in Hebrew homes is incredible, very high, more higher than Gentile homes, pure Gentile homes. And that's incredible as well. But it is actually true. It's occurring over here. So we need to ask ourselves question that what is it that we are doing wrong? Obviously we must be doing something wrong for that to occur in our homes. We are not following the instructions of Moses, and we are not even following the instructions of Yehoshua of Nazareth. In other words, some of these Hebrews, they hate Jesus. Put it this way, Jesus of Nazareth, they hate him. Okay? They don't like him at all. He's a pariah to them. And some of these, they espouse Moses, but they don't follow Moses either. Incredible, isn't it? They hate Yehoshua, the Messiah, and they claim to follow Moses, but they don't even follow Moses. Just as the Master Yehoshua said to the standing Jews in Israel back then, he said, you are of the father, your father the devil. Because if you had believed Moses, you would have believed me. That's the problem. The problem is that we use labels and we block ourselves from God and His blessings because of these labels that we attach ourselves to. And I think it needs to be careful. I was reading somewhere, one of the news articles, I was reading that now, remember I spoke to you earlier and I said to you that some of you are, I'm saying things but you're not doing them. You keep coming back to me, you keep going to places where I tell you not to go, and you keep doing things I tell you not to do. And so there was an article about, because if you as teachers are going to do it, can I really expect the ordinary, member of Israel, meaning somebody who's part of spiritual Israel, forever Israel, will he be doing that? When he sees his rabbi doing the contrary? Of course not. There was a ex-chief rabbi in Israel, and the news article I was reading that his son apparently is entering same-sex marriage. Ex-chief rabbi, by the way. Now if the ex-chief rabbi, now I've got nothing against, let me state it for the record. I have nothing against homosexual people or their lifestyles. What they want to do is entirely up to them. But I'm telling you is if a chief's rabbi's son is going to do that, how many other people will say, yep, we can do it too? So my point is not to be critical of a certain lifestyle or to berate those people or to put them down. My point is that if a teacher's child is going to do that, is going to do something in Israel, by the way, we're not talking about out of Israel, then how many other people will do that? Because they'll follow suit. You'll move away from Torah entirely. So this is a problem, so I'm kind of giving you a hint that you really need to examine yourselves, because you're not doing what you're told. And let me also be clear that not all the rabbis are like that in Forever Israel. I am speaking for only those rabbis that have done that, but there are rabbis in Forever Israel that are highly commendable men and very upright, and they do the right thing. You know who you are, and I don't need to name anybody here. This is not a name and shame game. I'm just simply giving you advice as to the actions that you take today. The actions that you take today will affect you tomorrow. And then don't come to me tomorrow crying and saying, oh, Rabbi, I did this and now I have this problem, can you pray for me? Because I'm not going to stand there and pray for you at that point, because you have been told 50 million times not to do that. And if you still continue to do it, then you're on your own after that. So what we have over here is very similar thing that happened in the past of our forefathers, your brothers and sisters, by the way, in spiritual Israel. It's already happened before. It's nothing new. It happened with the 12 spies. Out of those, only 2 spies stood. Those 2 spies, by the way, that stood were apparently Yehoshua ben Nun and Caleb, who said, no, we can take the land. We have God with us. And the rest of the spies gave a negative report. They said, oh, the land is big, it's very prosperous, but the people are very strong. We can't win them. We can't do nothing. We won't survive. This is the problem that a lot of you people are staying in North America. This is a typology, a shadow of that. A lot of you in America are berating and putting down America and saying all sorts of negative and evil and bad report of America. Everybody you speak to about America is a pariah. America is no good. America's people are no good. America's economy is no good. America's mistreating you. Blah blah blah, and on and on and on and on it goes. So you're berating it. Whilst Yahweh has put you here in exile to bless you through your exile, but you're not seeing that, because all you want to see is what's on your, what's in front of your eyes, and then what that comes on your lips. And then the problem is this, that you are speaking negative all the time. So my lecture here is about reprogram yourself, reprogram your brain, and stop spewing negative words about America. If you live in North America, stop spewing negative words about it. Because if you don't, then you are going to reap the benefit or the curse of the words you speak. They're going to become real in your life. I think I partially quote Rabbi Kefa earlier. He was speaking about some negative things that people are saying about illnesses, about other things, and they were occurring, breakups, and they were occurring. Yeah, I have written about and spoken about words have power. When you tell yourself negatively every day, you tell yourself I am no good, or you tell yourself I can't make it, then that's what will happen to you. You will not make it. And if you tell yourself, this is a terrible place to live, then this will be a terrible place to live for you, not for anybody else, only for you and your family. So that's the problem. So the problem is this, is that you need to stop telling yourself negativity all the time. You need to remove that poison that is in your mind that is negative. Because if you don't remove that poison, then my goodness, no one else can. God's not going to come magically and remove the poison from your, from yourself. I mean, this is something that I sent. I have, if I can find this quote, and I'll read it to you. And I sent this to somebody because I think I found it very instructional that they needed to remove toxic thoughts and toxic things from their life and their mind. In other words, what you're doing is you're poisoning your mind. And I sent this to somebody. This is what it says. It says as follows. I'll read it out to you. The more choices you have, listen to this very carefully, and maybe I'll explain it a little bit. And I hardly doubt that the person I was speaking to even understood what I was, they understood maybe a part of it, but they never spoke about that to me again. In other words, had they questions about it, they would have asked me. They didn't ask me questions, from which I understand that they didn't understand jack. Put it this way. They didn't understand anything I said. I was speaking to a wall. So, but they understood one thing out of it. Only one thing, loyalty. The rest, they went over their head. They don't have the spiritual capacity to receive what I was telling them. But here is what it says. The topic, the subject is marked, regret is toxic for happiness. And it says as follows, the more choices you have, the harder it is to choose. We fear making the wrong decision and then having to live with regret. Regret is unlike any other negative emotion because it makes us think something could have been avoided if we had chosen differently. The more options we have, the greater the chance of regret. If there's a long queue at the checkout because it's the only one open, it will be annoying, but there will be no regret. However, if there are two checkouts, both with queues, and you get stuck behind a slow customer, you might regret choosing the wrong queue. A simple way to avoid regret and increase happiness is to reduce the number of options before making a decision. I tell you, this paragraph is remarkable to some of the things that our scriptures tell us. I found this paragraph absolutely remarkable. And it says, never look back unless you're planning to go that way. Henry David Thoreau, that's who wrote this paragraph. Amazing, isn't it? Now let me explain what it actually means, and let me apply it to your lives. Some of you women out there, so-called Hebrew women and so-called Hebrew men, you can't find wives and you can't find husbands. You know why that is? Because you have too many options, and your options are withholding you from making a choice. That is what this article is saying. Because of these options, what happens, let's say for argument's sake a woman will have a man that comes into her life. Maybe somebody who espouses to be your husband, possibly, potentially. It could apply to a man as well, who has a woman that comes to his life for a wife to be, espoused to be a wife, not yet a wife, but maybe she will be a wife. And so what happens is that you look at that person, you look at them, you make a decision, and you say, maybe that decision takes you a week, maybe it takes you 2 days, maybe it takes you 5 days, maybe it takes you 2 months, and you say, that man's not going to be my husband. And you say, that woman's not going to be my wife, because she doesn't fit my model. I have a model in my head. I have a model that is going to be, this much tall, he's got to be this much, men think like this. Men will think, oh, she's got to have curves over here, she's got to talk like this, and she's got to go do this for me. She doesn't fit that model. She's out. And women will say, well, that man's got to be this skin tone, light brown skin tone. He's got to speak a certain way. He's got to walk a certain way. He's got to have so much cash in the bank. He doesn't have it. Bye-bye. Because of your choices, because you are making bad decisions, because you have too many options, just as that man was saying. When you have too many options, you make bad decisions. And you know why the Israelites were crying? The Israelites were crying in the desert when these 10 spies that came out of the 12 that gave a negative report. They were crying because they had no other option. Think of their option. What was their option? They couldn't go back because they would be dead in the desert. God wouldn't be with them. They had to go only forward, right? They couldn't look back. So they were crying and crying and crying, and my goodness, it's like the end of the world. They decided it was the end of the world. We're going to die all over here now, because we're not going to go forward because the Amalekites are going to kill us, and we're not going to go back because the desert's going to kill us. What has God done to us? He brought us over here to kill us. My goodness, that is your situation, people. You are thinking like that. You're thinking that, oh, I can have, that husband, that, the whole queue of men over there. You have a queue of men, and you can't decide. Therefore, at 50-something, you're still single. While some people are married about 10 times over by 50-something, and you're still single. You're still thinking, where is that man I'm supposed to marry? And the men are thinking, where is that woman I'm supposed to marry? Because of your options. By the way, marriages are made by people. God may reveal to you a person for marriage, potentially. Potentially he can, he doesn't have to. But marriages are made by people, and nobody's perfect, by the way. Last I checked, everybody out there is imperfect. Everybody. Including myself. We're all imperfect. We all have faults, including myself first. So we all have faults. So how are we going to do it? How are we going to do it that there's nobody perfect? How am I going to find that perfect wife? I'm not going to find that perfect wife. Because she doesn't exist. That piece of text that I sent, you know who I sent it to? I sent it to my Aisha in the East. She was dealing with a problem in the family, and I sent it to her. You know what I told her? I said, your only option is me. Don't even think about a second option, because if you start thinking second option, then that's the end of your life. You killed yourself already before you even begun. So stop worrying about this, that, and the third. That text is very instructional, because loyalty is key. I'm not saying that because Aisha wasn't saying, oh, I'm going to leave you. She wasn't saying that. But I was dealing with an issue that she had from another angle. And I said to her, whatever happens in your life, for good, for bad, or for worse, your husband is going to be me throughout your life. And that's where you're going to stand. And so, therefore, what is important lesson out of this is that if you poison your mind and you say to yourself, some of you out there found that you are ill. You have an illness, you got a medical report and it's not good. The medical report is not good and you're wondering, that's it, the end of my life. But no, God has hope for you, because just like that palm tree I explained earlier, the palm tree can bend, but it won't uproot. You might be bended over because of an illness, but you tell yourself that you're going to be healed, you're going to be better tomorrow, and you will be better tomorrow. Half the time the problem is this, that you don't listen and you don't pay attention and you don't follow through. Somebody I was dealing with, I gave them an instructions to do something and they didn't follow it through. They did part of it and then they didn't follow it through. Because of personal weaknesses, because of whatever, give it whatever excuse you want to. You can give it 10 million excuses. When you don't follow through, you don't receive what was at the end of that. Rabbi Kefa is saying that I only must find the loyal woman, and I will search the ends of the earth until I find that loyal woman, and I have. Baruch Hashem, Master Yahweh. Indeed, Rabbi Kefa, indeed. So I can attest to that. So my point is this, that because of your numerous options, this is your problem. Your problem, Mishpacha, is not that there's no man out there for you to marry if you're a woman, or there's no woman for you to marry if you're a man. Your problem is your stupid number of options. These options, I can get a husband from San Francisco, I can get a husband from Florida, I can get a husband from Texas. That's your problem. You have allowed yourself, you have closed yourself in to live a life of misery. and I speak the truth and facts on the ground. I'm not going to lie to you. You're going to live a life of misery and loneliness because of these options that you have created for yourself. God didn't create these options. You did. Because of your negativity in your mind and the poison that you live with, you have allowed your mind to be poisoned, and now you can't find the happiness that you so deserve. So first and foremost, remove the poison. Remove these options. If you are decided, if you really wanted to serve God, and most of you, I know you desire to serve God. You desire. You know, the emphasis on desire and not on obedience, because half of you are not even obedient. So let's not even talk about that. And I'm going to illustrate a point to you. So important point that you're going to think, by the way, this lecture is made out of heaven. I didn't make this lecture. I didn't write it down. This is made out of heaven. And I will tell you, and I will take you to that part wherein Chukhmah is taking me. And I will reveal to you that the poison that you carry in your minds, it is withholding your happiness. And when you let go of that poison and you speak life into your life, then you will get the husband you desire. And the emphasis is now get, not on desire. Because your desire could be, I want to be in the White House and be like Mr. Trump, our president. But you'll never be there. That's not your place, right? So don't think for a second, oh, well, if I desire to, work for the president, maybe I can go work for the president. And that may not be your place. Or you could say, maybe I'll be the next president of America. That is not your place. So why are you desiring something that is not your place? It's not that you can't receive it. It's that it is not appointed for you. If it was appointed for you, you would receive it. But if it's not appointed, you're not going to get it. Doesn't matter how many times you tell yourself that. So there is a limit to what is allowed to you. So the God that we serve, He allows us a wide breadth. Torah is very liberal. Torah is not as restrictive as most people think. Oh, Christians say, oh, the law, oh, legalistic. Torah is not like that. Torah allows you wide breadth. It is a wide road. It allows you a lot of choices, a lot of options, but we must restrict our options. Because if we don't, then we're going to regret it. Now let me take you to a story. Let me take you to a story and illustrate a point. In the book of, I'm going to have to go to the book of Samuel. So let me find the book of Samuel. Shemuel Beth, I believe. And I'm going to take you to chapters 29. Now, chapters 29 of 1 Samuel, this is a story where it says, now the Plashtim gathered together all their armies to Aphek, and the Israeli pitched by a fountain which is in Jezreel. And the princes of the Plashtim passed on by hundreds and by thousands, but David and his men passed on in the rear guard with Achish. Then said the princes of the Plashtim, what do these Abrahu Hebrews are doing here? And Achish said to the princes of the Plashtim, is not this David the servant of Shaul, the king of Israel, which has been with me these days, or these years? And I have found no fault in him since he fell to me to this day. So King David, listen to this, Mishpacha. King David had aligned himself with what was then Israel's enemy. And for a duration of time, he was in the enemy's camp where he had found refuge. And he was being blessed over there. And he was even blessing the enemy. Remember the Master Yehoshua speaking about blessing your enemy? Praying for your enemy? So here was King David literally in the enemy and being blessed. And the enemy is saying that King David is amongst us. Well, he was our enemy, but he's now in our midst. But what if he turns against us tomorrow? What are we going to do? So they are worried. Some of them are worried that King David might turn against them. What should we do with him? Should we send him out in peace? So, yeah, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Absolutely. So King David applied that philosophy, right? King David, even in the enemy's camp, was in a state of blessing, in a state of peace. A very important lesson to learn. A lot of you that hate America, you need to learn this lesson, that in this state is where your blessings are, where your prosperity is. But can you even see it? And then it goes on, and it says as follows in chapter 30. It says that it came to pass when David and his men were come to Ziklag on the third day, that the Amaleki had invaded the south and Ziklag, and smitten Ziklag and burned it with fire, and had taken the women captives that were therein. They slew not any, either great or small, but carried them away and went on their way. And so David and his men came to the city, and behold, it was burned with fire, and their wives and their sons and their daughters were taken captive. Then David and the people that were with him lifted up their voice and wept, until they had no more power to weep. Now, this is very important in the translation, because I believe in the King James Version edition of the Bible, let me pull that up. 1 Samuel chapter 30 verse 4. Let me pull it up in the King James edition as well and read that to you. 1 Samuel chapter 30, and I can open it, verse 4, and it says, so it says almost similarly there. And it then tells us, and David's two wives were taken captive, Ahinoam the Jezreelitess, and Abigail, the wife of Nabal the Carmelite. Okay, so here look at the crying, very similar crying to the crying that the Israelites did. Only thing is that the Israelites crying, when the 12 spies came back, the Israelites crying, it doesn't tell you in the text that they stopped crying or they had no more tears to cry, but they probably did. They probably cried and cried and cried until they could cry no more. Here it tells you that David's wives have been taken, city have been utterly burnt. These men came to their homes destroyed. Now, they were crying. I don't think that we can imagine the magnanimity of this issue that they had. Can you imagine? A king comes home and everything he belongs to him is burnt down. What's he going to think? Oh my goodness, God is against me. Oh, look what he's done. He's against me. He's taken my house, taken my wives, everything. Right? In the natural, he will think God must be against me, that he's done that. But in the supernatural, King David knew this is only a trial. But he still cried as a human being. He still felt anguish, but he didn't give up. Is that palm tree analogy I spoke to you about was bent over. The palm tree is bent over, but the palm tree is upright, righteous man. Is bent over, crying, weeping, but then straightened up and said, I'm gonna get this right. You know what he did? Let me give you a little spiritual hint. Look what King David did. Look who he goes to. He doesn't go to any of the tribes and say, oh, you come with me. No, he goes to the Kohen in the gate. Listen to this. Verse 7. And David said to Abiathar the Kohen, Ahimelech's son, I beseech you, bring me here the ephod. So who does King David go to? To inquire to Yahweh, he goes to the Kohen in the gate. This is a righteous king. A righteous king who is also supposed to be Malech Zadok. In other words, he can administer righteousness and justice as a king. So he needs to borrow an item that belongs to the Kohen in the gate. And the Kohen in the gate gladly gives him that item to use. And then King David inquires from Yahweh, and then Yahweh tells him, yes, go and pursue the enemy and you will get everything back. So we know subsequently King David pursues the enemy and gets everything back. Because it tells us in the scriptures, it tells us, because Yahweh tells him, pursue, for you shall surely overtake them and without fail recover all. So David went, and he and his 600 men that were with him, and came to the brook Besor, where those that were left behind stayed. Now, very important lesson. You might think that the 600 men that King David took were all upright, were all righteous, were all great men. In other words, we tend to think that everybody that is in my camp, everybody that's with me now is perfect. But actually it wasn't so. We at Forever Israel learned this in much delight, if you can say it, or another way, and much to my chagrin, that everybody that was part of Forever Israel 3 years ago was not all sincere. There were some wretched men in our midst, and wretched women as well. 3, 4, 5 years ago, we had to deal with them, and this is exactly the same thing in King David's 600 men. Let me show it to you. King David had them in his camp, but they were not all great men, by the way. Some of these were wretched men and wretched women with them. And so this is what it says. It says in verse 10 that David pursued with 400 men. He left 200 behind. He was pursued with them. Then he found an Egyptian in the field, and he brought him to David and gave him lachem, food of course, and he ate, and he made him drink water. Then this Egyptian, when he regained his strength, he was hungry for 3 days. He regained his strength, and he said to David, David, I know the people that took your, burnt your houses, took your wives, took your goods. I know them. I can take you to them because they left me behind. A very, very important lesson for you to learn from the Kohen in the gate in 2018. If you're with the enemy, if you think that you can destroy my home, you can destroy part of Israel, or you can do anything against me, you are with the enemy. You're not gonna harm. The hair on my head are counted. There's not that many, by the way. That's just a joke. But the hairs that I have, the few that I have hairs on my head, you can't touch them. You can't even bend them a little bit. So my point is if you stand with my enemies, you stand against Yahweh Himself, and there'll be nothing left of you. But that's just by the by. So this person, this Egyptian, is likened to that man who was with the enemy. And look what happened to me. What happened to him? He was left behind by the enemy. So you think the enemy is your friend. You go and join the enemy. Oh, he's against Rabbi Simon Eltap. Let's join him. Let's go against and crusade against Rabbi Simon. We call him every expletive under the sun. He's a son of a bee. He's a bee. He's a this, he's that. You call me every expletive under the sun. You go with the enemy. And you know what I do? I sit in my room and I lift up my voice and I pray to the God that I serve. And I say, you do my justice. And you deal with these people. That's all I need to do. And that's enough from my part. And this is what happened with this man. This man, this Egyptian Gentile, had joined with the enemy who came to rob King David's household and everybody's household that was there. And they were all very excited to rob and pillage. Because it tells us in the scripture that they were all dancing and they were all singing and they were all drinking. Because King David says to him, can you take me to them? And he says, of course he can. And then he asked King David then King David wouldn't kill him, because obviously he was part and parcel of this massacre that they did, of this pillage that they did. And it then says he asked King David for an oath that King David wouldn't kill him or give him to his enemies, because if you are with your enemy, then the enemy is going to drop you by the way. It's going to be bye, and you're going to be left on your own. And then you're going to be seeking mercy, and mercy may or may not come. And then it says, and he brought him down, and they were spread upon all the land, eating and drinking and dancing and singing, and they was all happy. Great spoil they're taken from King David's city, Ziklag, at the time. They're all happy. And because they had robbed the Plashtim, it says they had robbed the Plashtim and they had robbed the land of Judea. And says David smote them from the twilight even to the evening of the next day, and there escaped not a man of them except 400 young men. So 400 young men which rode up upon camels and fled, they ran away. Only 400 escaped. And it says that David recovered everything that they had taken away, and he rescued his 2 wives. And it says that there was nothing lacking to them, neither small nor great. So they recovered everything. And then it says that David even took their flocks, their cattle, their sheep. And then David came to the 200 men that he left behind. Now here the story becomes real juicy, because he left the 200 men behind which were so weary and they couldn't move on. They couldn't enter the battle, so he left them behind, because he had made them to stay back and look after the people at the back, cover their rear. And so they came and met King David, and they were with him, and David came to the people and he greeted them. Then answered all the wicked, listen to this, verse 22, then answered all the wicked men and men of Belial, of them that went with David. So David had with him people who were of Satan. They looked like Israelites, they behaved like Israelites, but they were not Israelites per se in their heart. They were wicked men. And you know what they said? They said to King David, they were greedy, they were wicked, and they said that these 200 people didn't go with us, so why should we give them their spoil back? Why should we give them the recovery of their articles, of their goods back, because they were not with us? And they said, if we give them everything, then they'll go their merry way. Why should we allow their happiness? And so King David said to them, you shall not do so, my brethren. King David, still these wicked men, he calls them my brethren. My brothers, you will not do that, because Yahweh has given that which Yahweh has given us, who has preserved us and given this company that came against us into our hand. For who will listen to you in this matter? But the share will be the same for him that went down to the battle and to him that didn't go down to the battle. In other words, it will be the same for both, irrespective, because both of them left home to go to fight, and one group couldn't make it because they got tired on the way. And it says, and it was from that day forward that it made a statute and an ordinance for Israel to this day. In other words, if you left your home and you were stuck part way, you didn't make it all the way, the share was the same, irrespective. And so David then came to Ziklag. He sent of the spoil to the elders of Yehudah, even to his friends, saying, behold, a present for you of the spoil of the enemies of Yahweh, to them which were in Bethel, and to them which were in South Ramoth, and to them which were in Yatir. So he gave he took the spoils and he gave them to the people who were not even in the battle. So this reveals the nature of King David. Two things what do we learn from this? We learn that King David had to go to the priest of the day. He had to go to him because he was the one that had the magic, the magic of the presence of Yahweh. So he went to the priest in the gate, the Kohen. And apart from that, King David dealt justly with the people that were not able to make it. He had people with him that were not straight, that were not righteous, but they were part of Israel still. Yet they are called children of Belial. Can you see that? That we sometimes have people in our midst who are negative, who hate others, who probably even hate you. We have those kind of people sometimes with us. Yet we still have to do the right thing. As leaders, we must still do the right thing. So the lessons we learn is be careful of joining the enemy, because the enemy will leave you stray. They will not carry you all the way. They will leave you stray, and the person that you put your faith into and loyalty into, and you're thinking, oh, that man's going to bless me and I'm going to reap benefits. It may not be that way, by the way. When you join the enemy, it's the other way around. You reaping the curses instead. Just as this Egyptian who came to plunder and pillage King David's city realized that he got nowhere with it. In the end, he had to help King David and ask him to swear to save his life, not to kill him, because he deserved death. So he had to ask King David that that if he is able to reveal to King David the whereabouts of these Amalekites, then King David would be able to, or these people that had taken away the goods. He wanted to make sure that King David understood that he would not kill these people because they were of the Amalekites and so forth. And so King David had to give them a vow that he wouldn't. So we learn several lessons. Lessons is that when Yahweh puts a Kohen in your gate, he is a man with a magic bullet, put it this way, or he is a man that has access to Yahweh. I mean, you all have access to Yahweh. It's not that you don't, but the special pass only belongs to the Kohen in the gate, not everybody else. So you got two choices. The choices are that you go on your own and you get nowhere, or you stick to the Kohen and you get somewhere. That is why people around me, Gentile people around me that came into my life, that's why I gave you a testimony earlier of my life, that Gentile people who were around me, they wanted to get blessings from me. They knew and they could see that they would be blessed as a result of being around me and allowing me to help them in some way, in some advice or some other way, because information is power. If you have the right information, it's power. But if you don't, then of course. So what we must learn to do, from this we learn a number of lessons. That Rabbi Kefa teaches you that he will never leave the Kohen in the gate, no matter what happens. That's the lesson that you need to teach yourself. That's the lesson we learn from King David. A king, a righteous king who was close to God, and God said King David was after his own heart. I mean, King David made many mistakes. Know this, that he wasn't perfect. He made many mistakes. Yet God calls King David after my own heart. So if you're looking for that perfect person, that perfect husband, that perfect wife, she don't exist, by the way. That perfect husband doesn't exist. But you will find a husband or a wife with, a few faults, creases. There'll be creases, and you have to iron those creases out through what we call communication, adaptation, cooperation. It's through these things that you're going to iron out those things, and you're going to live a happy and rejoiceful life together by being in cooperation with each other. So don't tell me next time, I can't find my husband, I can't find my wife. Because you can find your husband and you can find your wife, but your problem is you poisoned your mind with a number of options. You're telling yourself, I have an option to go to Africa, I have an option to go to the East, I have an option to go to Western Europe, I have an option to do this, I have an option to do that. These options are killing you. You need to choose one, and that is your option only. When you make yourself that one option, you say to yourself that my wife is coming from this option or your husband, that's what will take place. But when you don't do that, you're going to be all over the place, and no one's going to be happy. Especially you are not going to be happy. Because you must remove and recondition your mind and remove the poison. Remove that poison. Tell yourself, speak life into your life. If you don't speak life, then you're speaking death. If you're always telling yourself, oh, I'm down, oh, I'm out, oh, I can't get that job because I'm no good, oh, I'm trying, I've sent 100 applications and I still haven't got the job. You're telling yourself negative things. But now start telling yourself positive. Speak life to yourself. There is a story, a real factual story in the Bible about Balaam. Balaam was chosen by Balak, who was a king. He was chosen to curse Israel. And Balaam was prepared to pay huge amounts of money. He was a very rich king. He was willing to pay huge amounts of money Balak was prepared to pay a huge amount of money to Balaam, that he may go and speak curses to Israel. But when Balaam went, first he was reluctant to go, but he was a greedy man. He was a greedy Gentile prophet. Eventually he goes, and when he goes, he speaks. He wants to speak curses because whatever he says comes true. and he has access to God as well, by the way, which is kind of surprising as a Gentile prophet, and he wants to speak curses to Israel, but God makes him only speak blessings, only speak life. And Balak hates it. Balak says, my goodness, this man, I paid him to speak curses, and he's speaking blessings. So what do we learn from that? What we learn from that is we must speak life to our life. Tell yourself that you're going to get the husband that is right for you and the wife that is right for you. Tell yourself that you're going to get that job. Tell yourself that you're going to get that healing. Speak life to yourselves. Remove the poison. If you don't remove the poison, you will be unhappy and you will be lonely. So remove that poison and tell yourself that. Because if you don't tell yourself that, you will always suffer. Negativity is the killer. Don't speak negative words to yourself all the time. And don't speak them to your children. Those of you who are mothers. Well, I see, in movies all the time and in real life as well, I notice mothers speaking very negative words to their children. Their children grow up with those negative words. And sometimes they don't make it as good as they should. Because those negative words affect them. They carry them. So one thing you must do is remove that poison, that negativity. Speak life to yourselves. Speak blessings to yourself. And you have a Kohen in the gate. When things don't work, when you can't do it, then you speak to the Kohen. Then the Kohen can speak blessings into your life. But you must follow the spiritual principle. Don't come to me after I tell you not to do something. Don't come to me. Don't come to me after I tell you. If I tell you not to go somewhere and you go there and then you come to me, oh, can you speak blessings to my life? Because you already did what I told you not to do. But you must do what the Kohen tells you to do. I'm not telling you for my benefit. It's not for my blessings. It's not because I'm going to get financial wealth out of you for that. No, it's not for that reason. My place here is totally spiritual. My loyalty to the Master Yehoshua is totally physical and spiritual, both. But you must remember that Yahweh loved you so much. The Master Yehoshua, who we know as Yahweh, He loved you so much that He put me here in your midst. He plucked me out of England and put me here in your midst. Why? So that you can be blessed by the words you hear, by the actions and by the deeds that the Kohen can help you perform. That's why. Every one of you that has come to me for advice or prayers has not walked away empty-handed. And each of you, and I know that you may not give that as a testimony, but each one of you can attest to that to your families. That none of you has received a curse from me. All of you that are with me have received a blessing. And your lives are much better than they were before you came to me. And Olivier is in France. Olivier, Shalom, Shabbat Shalom to you. Olivier is saying that indeed, Kohen, I'm a witness. And Rabbi Kefa is saying he's a witness. So you all have me, and you all have the bracha. I don't know, what Yahweh will do next, because Yahweh doesn't tell me His diary. He doesn't tell me that, Rabbi Simon or just Simon, I'm going to do this next. He doesn't tell me that. But He will tell me things that I need to know. He will tell me that. And so therefore I can stand for you. If I need to, I can stand on your behalf. And a lot of Christians will tell you, a lot of Christians will say it this way. They'll say, oh, you don't need anybody. You can do it yourself. They'll say, you can do it yourself. And to for that, Eddie saying he's a witness, and a lot of you others are witnesses. And I can do it myself. But yes, you can. But there is a limit. There is a limit to which you can do it. And that's where the wall comes in. Boom! And it's a wall that you can't pass. You can't pass that wall, because that wall can only be passed by the Kohen in the gate. Because he can jump over that wall, because Yahweh has given him that which he's not given you. Because I don't have physical, I don't look forward to a plot of land in Israel. I'm not looking to 50 acres in Israel, because I'm not given 50 acres in Israel. But you are. You can look forward to 50 acres in Israel. I can't. So what do I have? I have the Master for me in heavens. He is for me. The Master Yahushua, Jesus of Nazareth. He is for me. He is what I have. So when I need Him, I can go directly to Him, and He will come to my aid. Years ago, when I first came to recognize who God was, years ago when I came to Him, and this is what the Master Yahushua said to me at that point. He said, I am with you. I will hold your hand. So we need to understand that. I have an inheritance, but my inheritance is not 50 acres of land and 50 mules and 50 cows and 50 goats and 50 lambs. That's not my inheritance. My inheritance is God Himself. And Baruch Hashem, Master Yahweh, for that. Baruch Hashem for that. That's all I need. I'm happy with that, because I know with God all things are possible. I have removed all negativities from my mind long time ago. And even in my touch, even when I touch something, it will be blessed, as Rabbi Kefa can attest to you. So I'm not saying that I have the Midas touch. I'm not saying that, but I am telling you that God has bestowed a gift upon me. With that gift, it's not me, it's not my flesh and blood doing it. It's nothing that I've done to earn that. I've done nothing to earn it as a human being, nothing at all. But that gift is bestowed upon me by God, that I can say something and it will come to pass, and I can touch something and it will be blessed. So this is why I said to you once that my curse is worse than my blessing. I hope I never speak it. Daughter of Zion is saying that my son is a Gentile, and he speaks all the time of the increases in my life. My son told me something is shifting in his spirit also. Okay, great. Always tell yourself positive things, good things. Never speak negativity into your life. Remove all negativity. Reprogram your heads, your brains. Reprogram them. According to scientific facts, that we only use, the average person only uses between 10 to 11% of his brain. I think that 10 to 11% that you use, if you're within those ordinary people, because even the best of people don't use more than maybe 15 to 20%. The best, the so-called geniuses even don't use more than 20%. So if you're part of the 10% or 20%, you need to clean up your mind of all the poison and the hate. The hate because your ex-husband dealt really badly with you. The hate because your ex-wife was really nasty to you. The hate because you were slandered. The hate because you were maligned. The hate because your employer fired you because he didn't like you. The hate because you didn't get that job. All of that we need to detox, Rabbi Kefa. Absolutely. Detox is a word. Detoxify your brains. Speak life. And you will reap the blessings unthinkable blessings that you never thought about. And with the Kohen in the gate, everything is possible. But remember, the more options you create for yourself, the more unhappy you're going to be. Why? Because when you have to make a decision, when you are 50 years old, in the middle age, you have to have a decision. You can't be like a 16-year-old and say, well, I'm a teenager and I don't know and I'm not ready, and I like, Betty, I like, Linda, I like Jenny over there, but I don't know which one to choose for my wife. When you have many options, you will not succeed because you can't make a choice. So it is very important to understand that point. If I can put anything into your mind, is understand that point. Your choices are killing you. You have too many choices. Limit your choices. Cut your options down to one. Only one. And that's what you choose. And then you'll get blessings in that. And let me take you over to the Master Yehoshua's words now as well. And I want to speak something which is, I think, very important. As I was reading these scriptures this morning, this came to pass. In Matthew chapter 12, it says, at that time Yehoshua went on the Sabbath day through the grain field, and his disciples were hungry, and began to pluck the heads of the grain and eat. But when the Pharisees saw it, these are supposed to be the religious men, the religious men, the Pharisees, all the know-it-alls, the experts, they came and they said to him, behold, your disciples do that which is not permitted to do upon the Sabbath day. They are eating food that they are not supposed to eat. They are plucking food out of the fields. But he said to them, have you not read what David did? When he was hungry, and they that were with him, he entered into the bait of Yahweh, into the house of Yahweh, and did eat the lachem hapanaim, the bread of faces, the showbread, which was not permitted in the Torah for him to eat, neither for them which were with him, but only for the Kohanim. Or have you not read in the Torah how that on the Sabbath day the Kohanim in the Beit HaMikdash profane the Sabbath and are blameless? So some of you keep asking the same question that has been answered millions of times. You keep asking the same question. You say, I can't take a day off on the Shabbat. I have to go to work on the Sabbath. Can I go? Can I not go? The answer is already there. You go to work on the Sabbath, you feed your families. If you have to go work on the Sabbath because your employer doesn't give you the Sabbath off, you're not in perfection, by the way. Last I checked, nobody's perfect in the world, not even so-called Israel today. In Israel, they're the worst. They're the worst than the Gentiles. Let's not even go there. But let's look at the Gentile nations. You have to work, some of you have to work on the Shabbat. And if you have to work on the Shabbat, then you give over your income to the Kohen in the gate, to Yahweh. But you don't give up the job, because how are you going to feed your family? Your family needs you. You are maybe a head of the house, and your family needs you, need that money for the food to purchase, to eat. Therefore, it is 100% permitted for you to work. 100% permitted. Even if you have to break the Sabbath to work, to support and give life to your family, you're supposed to do that. So we don't have to keep answering the same question over and over again. That's what the Master Yehoshua said. Jesus of Nazareth told at that point to these so-called experts in the Torah that, have you not read that King David ate bread that wasn't permitted to him because he would die and his men would die without it. So life must be preserved. And then it says, then it goes on to quote one of the greatest verses in the Bible. He says that in this place is one greater than the Beit HaMikdash. He is referring to himself now. But he says, if you had known what this means, I desire loving kindness and not sacrifice, you would not have condemned the guiltless. He's saying that the people you are condemning, they're not guilty anyway. They have to live. Life is permitted. Torah permits life. But I stand here who's greater than a building. The building that you espouse to, that you go to, that you worship in that building, you think that's it, everything is there. But he says, I am greater than the building, yet you do not understand it. For the Son of Man is Master, Adon, Lord, even of the Sabbath day. And when he departed, he went into their kahal. And he says, behold, there was a man, he went to their assembly, to one of their Sabbath meetings. And there was a man whose hand was in disease mode, withered. And they asked him, saying, are you permitted? Is it permitted in the Torah to heal on the Sabbath day? Of course, the answer they wanted was no. You know what Yehoshua said to them? He said, what man shall be among you that shall have one sheep, and it fall into a pit on the Sabbath, and will not lay hold on it and lift it out? Are you going to wait for the Sabbath to finish? Or are you going to lift that sheep out? He said, how much then is a man better than a sheep? So then it is permitted in the Torah. Is it permitted in the Torah to do good on the Sabbath? Question mark. He is now reversing it and asking them, then is it right to do good on the Sabbath or evil? Then he said to the man, stretch forth your hand. And he stretched it forth, and it was restored whole, like as the other. So he healed the hand of the person. Then the Pharisees went out, held a council against him, and how they might destroy him. So these Pharisees went out thinking they're going to destroy him, because they're going to put these false allegations on him that he broke the Sabbath. He healed a man, that's not permitted. And so when Yehoshua knew it, he withdrew himself from there. And then it says, then it might be fulfilled which was spoken by Yeshayahu the prophet, behold my servant whom I have chosen, my beloved, in whom my soul is well pleased. I will put my ruach upon him, and he shall show judgment to the Gentiles. He shall not strive nor cry, neither shall anyone hear his voice in the streets. A bruised reed shall he not break, and smoking flax shall he not quench, till he send forth judgment to victory. And in his name shall the nations trust. So this was about Yehoshua of Nazareth, not about Yeshayahu the Isaiah the prophet. Yehoshua the prophet, Jesus the prophet, the Messiah, the future king, is saying that in his name the nations are going to trust. Gentiles. You will see Gentiles all around you espousing Jesus. So many of them espouse Jesus. Okay, they don't understand the Torah, but they love Jesus. Then it says, and one was brought to him, one possessed with a demon, blind and dumb, and he healed him. Even that other people couldn't heal, he healed him. Insomuch that the blind and the dumb both spoke and saw. So the healing was both of the ears and of the eyes. And all the people were amazed and said, is this not the son of David? Meaning, is he not the Messiah spoken about? And when the Pharisees heard it, of course, they even became more angry. They said, no, he doesn't do it by the God of the universe. He does it by Beelzebub, the ruler of demons. And says that Yehoshua knew their thoughts and said to them, every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation. Every city or base divided against shall not stand. Now let me turn this around. And it says, if Satan casts out Satan, is he divided against himself? How shall then his kingdom stand? So a lot of you are carrying the poison in your mind. Because you carry this poison in your mind, oh, I can't find that husband, oh, I can't find that wife, oh, I'm not getting that job, oh, I'm not going to make it. That poison that you keep speaking is preventing you, is divided your house. A divided house cannot stand. You will not achieve that desire to be successful if you continue to do this poison. Remove the poison. Speak life. Tell yourself that you're going to get that job. I spoke to somebody in Manila, and this person, their desire is to get a job outside the country. And of course, they've been trying, and nothing seems to be happening. And then one day, speaking to that person, I said to the person, go, I give you a bracha. I'm going to give you a bracha that you're going to get your job abroad. So don't ever tell yourself that you're not going to succeed. You are going to succeed. You're going to get that job. Persevere. It will come. And so we wait. All we got to do now is wait. And it will come to pass. Baruch Hashem, Master Yehoshua. So with that, we must understand that we will have life. Rabbi Yosef is saying that according to Psalm 118:17 is my affirmation daily, I shall not die but live and declare the works of Yahweh. Yahweh has chastened me sore, but he has not given me over to death. Yeah, that's a great verse. Simcha is saying that remember the thoughts are everything, thoughts are energy. Yeah, absolutely. So always give yourself over to life. Speak life, not death. If you speak death to yourself, and if you speak of unsuccesses, then that's what you will get. because you telling yourself that and you're conditioning yourself. So remove these conditions from your mind. Remove the poison. Remove yourself from poisonous people as well. People who speak negative all the time. Remove yourself from them. Don't associate with people who are negative all the time. Remove yourself from them as well, so that you don't poison your minds. Speak always life-giving words. Always. Don't speak poisonous words. I hope that today's lecture will help you see that each one of you can be successful if you only made a few adjustments. You can all be successful. You can all live a blessed life. We have the power of the universe on our side. Why should we worry over little things that only come in our life as trials to help us? So remember what I told you about choices. The more choices you have, if there's more checkouts at Walmart, and you decide, well, should have been A, should have been B, should have been C, should have been checkout number 1, checkout number 2, checkout number 3, there's 12 checkouts. You go behind one checkout, then you start regretting because, oh, the queue is not moving too fast. I should have been in checkout number 2. But no. You make a choice and you stick to it and you don't move. So you must make one choice. Eliminate the 11 checkouts and you tell yourself, I'm going to checkout number 1, come wind, come high water, I'm not moving from here. That is a checkout I'm going through. So choose yourself a man, choose yourself a woman for your husband, for your wife, and live your marriages faithfully with each other. That's all you need to do. And if you're going to continue to jump and dance and sing, then you're not getting nowhere in life fast. So with that, I leave you. Have a blessed Sabbath, a blessed week ahead. Todah, may the Master Yehoshua be with you as you go along the way. Todah, I'm going to pass it over to Rabbi Kefa. Shabbat Shalom, Shalom Shalom.
Todah, son of Aaron, what you have witnessed in this room today and continue to witness going forward and maybe have witnessed in the past is the son of Aaron is in your midst. And Rabbi Simon Altev, and indeed the lectures that you have heard and the lecture that you have heard today, hopefully it was timely for you. Everything happens for a reason. You must understand that going forward. I know I see a lot of new names. If you're new, maybe first, second time to the room, please acknowledge yourself and let us know where you're dispersed. Let the Mishpachah know where you're dispersed in the nations. Don't be shy. This room is a Torah room. Our only agenda is the Torah of Moshe, the Torah of Moses. That's it. And the right application of the Torah. Because just like you saw in the readings of the Master Yahushua in the New Testament, his biggest enemy was who? Was the so-called intellects, the experts of the Torah, who had no clue of Torah. I mean, do we not see the same thing today, especially here in North America? There's a lot of folks running with the umbrella of Torah, but who's actually getting protected from the rain? Think about that. Think about that going forward. I mean, that's almost mind-boggling, but we see the same pattern played over and over again. So thank you for your responses, and welcome to this room. Welcome to the room, Israel Torah protectors of the servants of Yahushua or Yeshua or Jesus, however you may know it. And we welcome you and we embrace you with open arms, just like the father of our way of life, Abraham, always had his doors open, and so do we. There's no agenda here but the Torah. It's not about your color, but it's about your character of the Torah. Does it merit Torah? That's where we're at. So welcome to all. Master Tech, John, welcome to all. You're more than welcome to stay if this is a fit for you. But I can tell you this, and I'm pretty sure all of them have echoed these same words at some time or another in your life. Everything happens for a reason. There's nothing that happens by, coincidence. Gentiles believe it's a coincidence. oh, it's just a coincidence. No, everything happens for a reason. Now, what you do during these times, that's on you. Hakohim talked about being, he talked about choices. Throughout the whole of our lives, this great gift that we've been given called life, you're given the ability to make choice. And your choice is based on the freedom that you have to make a choice. Think about that now. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute, because that came to me this morning. I tell you, she gave me a great lecture, to myself, really. But she was just talking about free versus deeds. I tell you, I'll break that down to you a little bit, give you what the Hokmah has given me. But I think it's so vital and so important that we begin to understand that everybody wants something for free. free. But, think about this. Ask yourself this question. Is free really good for you? Think about that now. You don't have to respond right now. You may want to think about that for a minute. Is free really good for you? You see these advertisements on TV, Walmart will do some advertisements and stuff like this. And when you read the red tape, these things literally aren't free. You know how they have their Black Friday, which they get ready to crank up already now in the middle of summer. Well, we're getting ready to end summer, beginning of summer, I guess you could say. But they're already cranking up, their advertisements, and they tell you get something free. And at the end of the day, you realize, you come to realize that it really isn't free. It's going to require something from you. And if it is free, I can tell you this, and this is just, I'm going to read it. Benai, he always tell him to write stuff down. And I'm going to read this just as it was given to me. And I think this is so instructional. This is so instructional. Because if it's free, this is how it was said to me. Free equals failure. That's heavy, Mishpahah. Listen, I'm going to say it again. Free equals failure. Think about that for a minute. Let it soak in. Let it marinate for a minute. Free equals failure. Think about that. Daughter of Zion 3 says, Chief Kefa, you and another person appeared in a dream this morning. You took your fishing rod to go fishing on a boat. Myself and another person stayed on shore. After you left, fishes started popping out of the water. They couldn't breathe in their own environment. I mentioned it because at the beginning you mentioned about animals and plants. Oh yeah. At the beginning of you were talking. Yes, animal, plants, human beings. All of these we've been given dominion over, and we must really care for them and really take care of them. And I think, I like to watch documentary shows and shows about the environment, and they were talking about, the scientists are talking about how our oceans are so polluted. They saying by 2050, we're going to have more plastic in the ocean than we're going to have fish. Think about that. I was like, my goodness, what's going on here? Now, I understand that the earth is not going anywhere, but I can tell you this. People are, but the earth is not going to go anywhere. Don't be fearful of, the world coming to an end, because the world's not going to end. It's going to be here. It's just going to be cleaned up the way we're getting cleaned up now. But I thought that was a staggering statistic. So if any of you are innovators in any kind of way, shape, form, or fashion, and just like the son of Aaron was talking about, and maybe you're using 20%, 12%, 13% of your brain, and you can come up with some kind of way to deal with this plastic pollution factor, I think that would be awesome. The Buddha says, are tattoos permissible in your religion? Let me tell you this. Number one, we're not a religion here. This is a way of life. And number two, you can have your tattoos. Just depends on what kind of tattoo you have. Now, for that, you might want to get with the son of Aaron. It's depending on the style of tattoo you have, where it's located. But, tattoos are not going to send you to hell. And believe this, I'm telling you, once you get into Torah, and we're going to talk about this. Here's another question. Is Torah free? Ask yourself that question. Save your responses for later, or you can answer now if you like. Are the laws of Moses free? You see? Think about that now. So I think that's important to look at as well. I mean, we'll talk about that in a minute. But again, there's so many misunderstood and misunderstanding about the creator of the heavens and the universe. You see, the heavens and the universe, you think about this. When Noah got on the boat, what religion was he? You ever thought about that? When Noah got on the boat, what was his religion? He didn't have a religion, right? He did not have a religion. None, right? Now, Noah got on the boat for one reason. You know, for rescue, you see. He was obedient. He listened and he obeyed. He didn't only listen, you see, because a lot of you listen, but you don't learn. Think about it. That came to me this morning from Him Hokma as well. We listen a lot, but we don't learn. We can be great ambassadors for the Torah, but a lot of times we just sit on our backsides and we're waiting for the Master Yahushua's return so we can enter the land. When there's so much work to be done, we can be such a great blessing to these great nations and really benefit and be custodians of this land that this earth that we've been given dominion of. And I firmly believe, like the daughter of Zion is saying, I guess we need to open our eyes. What is she saying? I guess we need to open our eyes more to our environment and what's going on. Oh, absolutely. It's because as men, we've been given dominion over this earth. We got to care for it. Now, whether your role is large or small, I mean, what is your role? Well, you say, Rabbi Kefa, I'm not no scientist. I didn't stay at a Holiday Inn last night. I don't know what the heck to do. Well, it starts in your home. Do you recycle? That's where you start. As you know, been given dominion over this earth. You know, the angels, a lot of the angels were so jealous. They're so jealous that the Creator, the Master Yahushua, the Creator, the Abba, that He gave dominion over this earth that He brought into being and created with His words, that He gave it to humans. Thus the rebellion broke out. And literally, hell broke loose. Think about that. Think about that. Isn't that something? So don't shuck and jive the responsibility. Don't shuck and jive the responsibility. Shuck and jive the responsibility of being, you know, earth watchers and taking care and doing your part and taking care of the earth. I think that's very important. Rifleman says, give me Bible verses. He's doing a lot of talking but no Bible. Oh, Rifleman, we'll get there. You can stay tuned. How about you exercise a little patience? Okay, so I think it's very important that we understand that. You see, because you can throw all the Bible verses out in the world, but what are you doing in your daily life? That's what's important. Your daily living. How are you getting on with your fellow human being? Are you being rude, disrespectful? Are you being courteous and patient? You see, these are things that we all need to learn. Just like Hakoin talked about waiting in a Walmart line. So what the queue is long? That's an opportunity for you to get a lot of great things done. You can meditate. You can do a lot of other things and develop and nurture your patience, you see. So I think it's very, very important that we understand. Rabbi Zachariah saying, I'm a fisherman and I hate to see trash in the lakes. Oh, indeed. I agree with you as well, Rabbi Zachariah. But does it stop there for you? Or what can we do? We have such inventive minds, but yet we don't use them. Just like Hakoin's talking about. The son of Aaron is telling us. He's trying. I mean, you got to read between the lines here and really begin to understand what's going on around us and our surroundings. It's not about quoting Bible verses. How are you living? You see, your daily living. How do you respect humans? How do you respect animals? How do you respect the plant life? You see, think about all of these things. Take these into consideration. Because all of these things were created by the Creator of the heavens and the universes. I don't care what name you give it. They were all created by the Creator of the heavens and the universes. And we must care and nurture and take care of these things. So I think it's so very important that we understand it. Master Tech John says, we have to plant and watch the seeds grow to life. How far can you love and obey Yah? Well, that is a very broad statement. And that's a very important question that we probably need to ask ourselves is how do we, show love to the Creator of the heavens and the universe? How do we show it? Or a lot of it is just say it, but how is it shown? See, this is the problem that I have with religion. All right, well, show me how you do your religion. No, they want to tell me how they do their religion. No. My descendants are Hebrews. Show me how you do your religion. Show me how you do it. Don't, what do they like to say it and spray it, this, that, the other, and the third. Show me how you do your religion. Show me. Don't tell me how you do it. Show me. Demonstrate your religion to me. Well, we go to church on Sunday, and we sing these songs, and we say these prayers, and then we just can do whatever we want to do. Wow. See, these are the things that we have to look at and examine. Now, my goodness, HaKohen's lecture, the son of Aaron's lecture was so timely and had so, you're going to have to go back and replay this over and over and over again to really begin to understand the depth of what the son of Aaron was saying. But on the surface, as you know, it starts with you. And that's one thing that you do have free, is the ability to choose. You have the ability to choose to be in this room, or you can choose to leave. You have the ability to choose to get up in the morning or to stay in bed. You have the ability to give life or to take life. And I'm going to talk about that too in a minute, because I think that's a subject that needs to be talked about. Very, very important subject. You see, because as practitioners of the laws of Moshe, see, this is not a religion. It's a way we live. It's a lifestyle for the Hebrews, for the Jews, for the Israelites, whatever name you want to put on it. It really doesn't matter to me. You see? But, too many times, too many people are caught up in, give me scriptures, give me this, that. Well, what good is the scripture going to do when you listen to it, but you don't learn from it? What good is that going to do? How are you going to take that scripture and apply it in how you live your daily life? You see, all of that mentality is it's just a bunch of, mumbo-jumbo. Religious, just mumbo-jumbo. You see, because here's one of the greatest things that people misunderstand, is that they'll tell you, how many of you heard this before? Well, I don't want to do that because I don't want God to judge me. Or, when I die, He's gonna judge me, and I don't want Him to judge me harshly. How many of you heard anything to that like before from people? As you deal with people as students of nature, as students, how many of you have heard people say that before? Well, I don't want God to judge me, or something of that like. Well, I guess nobody has. But I have heard it a lot, tremendously, in the Christian religion. They like to say that. But do you know and understand this, is that God doesn't judge you. Right now, you're on this earth, you're judging yourself. Think about that now, what I just said. You're judging yourself. Because when time comes before you to stand before the Creator of the heavens and the universe, sis, God is going to say, what did you do? What did you do with this great gift of life that I've given you? What did you do with it? What did you do? You see, you're going to be held accountable, and we understand that we all have two angels on the side of us. That's recording. You know what it's talked about in Revelation, where your books are going to be open? You know that? Your books are going to be open when you stand before the Creator of the heavens and the universe. I don't care what name you give them. Your books are going to be open. Well, can anybody tell me where those books came from? Can anybody tell me who's recording those books? You have angels on each side of you, left and right, and they're recording. Their only job is to record your livelihood. What do you do? That's what you're going to be held accountable for, what you do. So basically, think about this. You are right now on this earth judging yourself. Now, that's why it's so very important that you get the judge standard correct. What's the standard for justice? What's the standard for judgment? What's the standard for righteousness? How do I be right? Is it right in my own sight? Or we as Hebrews understand we have to be right in God's sight. We have to do what God says according to God, not what God says according to man. Mumbo jumbo. Because then you're going to get all kind of rights, right? You're going to get so many rights that you can't go wrong. because what God says according to man, my goodness. That's why we have so many different religions today, right? Tell you. So it's very important, and this even in this Parsha here, it teaches us this. As the sent ones, it teaches us this. Is that we are here on this earth, and we have the opportunity to get right judgment. But how do we know how to do what's right? Where do we go to understand how to do what's right in the sight of the Creator, God, in the sight of the omnipotent Creator of all of these things that we know of as things? Wow, that's heavy. The sons of Aaron, all of you are clued up, because you've been under the sons of Aaron, and you understand you won't leave the sons of Aaron. Because that's where you know and you can go to get things right. Now, before we go any further, I have 2 letters that I'd like to read from the prison ministry. We have a prison ministry here that we send, Torah tools into the prison ministries for free. They pay nothing. The only thing they have to do is request, and we get them to them and we delve them out in an equitable way to where they're distributed amongst the prison institutions here in North America as needs be, and also for those that write into us and correspond with us, either phone or email or even snail mail, that say, Rabbi, listen, I'm poor, but I want to obey the Creator of the heavens and the universes. I need the instruction book. Then we'll give them the complete. Now it's the complete. We only send it out the complete. I think I have a few Torahs left that'll be given out. But to doff all of you who do participate in that and helping, and I mean, believe me, you'll be merited for it. And it's not about quoting Bible verses, but it's about the actions of doing what's right. And that's letting your light shine, not by, and again, use the analogy. When you light a candle, does a candle speak to you? Yes, Master John Tech. I'd encourage you to get this as well. It's called the Hidden Truth Break Scrolls. You can find them on Amazon, and they're transliterated in English by the son of Aaron. If anybody would post the link for Master John so he can get this Bible, Master John, is more valuable than gold dust, because it's going to give you the true understanding, the factual understanding, not true, because it's the factual understanding from a Hebraic point of view, from a son of Aaron, Master John. And if you know your Torah, the sons of Aaron are very important for Israel. And just like you learned in this Parsha, sons of Aaron, Israel cannot do nothing successful without them. As we know, some of Israel decided, we're going to go and fight for the land on our own. Guess what happened to them? They got their backsides whipped. Can't do anything without the sons of Aaron. If the sons of Aaron are not with you, Israel, you will not succeed. And that's what we're seeing time and time again. Sons of Aaron are key. That's why it's not by happenstance that the sons of Aaron, a son of Aaron, is on the shores of North America and sunny Pensacola, Florida. So let's read 2 of these real quick. 2 of these letters, the correspondence. This one comes from, where's this one coming from? New Boston, Texas. And the guy's name is Kevin. I'll give you his first name. He says, I was studying Noble Drew, Moorish science, about, Moorish science, but another inmate put me on to the Torah. I have never read nor seen one, and when I opened it up, it was real. I was writing y'all and asking if y'all could send me one, a Tanakh, a Torah. Now, it's a short letter, right? But I think it's very heavy, because this guy, he was studying some guy named Noble Drew. I never heard of him. I guess he's in the Moorish, because a lot of these people here in North America, they stem from the Moors. These people of color on this end. Now, the Moorish, we understand, Yeah, he said Noble Drew or something. And so this is why you're going to get the mix with the